Hello everybody and welcome to the Daryl Talks podcast. Today we've got a bit of a Saltash legend. This is an author, he's a traveller, he's the only Cornishman to complete the 7 summits. He is Ed Buckingham, so without further ado, welcome Ed.
Hello Daryl.
How are you? You alright?
All good, thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to come out. So before we start, I'd just like to go for a few icebreaker questions. So first question is, if you could meet 3 celebrities, dead or alive, who would they be?
Well, the first one would have to be Sir Alex Ferguson. Yes, I am a Manchester United fan. You take with good times with the bad times. Certainly we're going through one at the moment. But that man, to me, is the epitome of a working class background. From the streets of Govan, he was an average footballer, but went on to be a tremendous manager, even before what he'd done at Old Trafford, considering what he'd done at the smaller club of Aberdeen, when Celtic and Rangers were the epitome of Scottish football. Not many celebrities would you say you could pay to listen to speak. But I would pay to listen to speak to Sir Alex Ferguson on any topic, though perhaps not when he's had a few red wines.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he enjoys a red wine, doesn't he?
Yes, but he's still going at 82 and he looks pretty well.
It's good for your heart, apparently, isn't it?
Yes, red wine is. I don't know about managing Man United.
Who would the second one be?
The second one would be, I have to say, Sir Chris Hoy and his family in general, especially. He was obviously a tremendous athlete in his own right, but what he's had to go through in the last 3 years with his prostate cancer and having it being terminal, and the way he's had to deal with it with his family before letting it out to the media. And he's got a young family himself, children, and also his wife as well has had some very distressing news with her MS. So yes, Sir Chris Hoy, a tremendous person also. And the third person, mine are all sports orientated. Several years ago now, and he's mentioned in my 7 Summits book, Sir Stephen Redgrave, Olympic rowing boat, after he got out the rowing boat for the 4th time after claiming his 4th gold medal at the Olympics. He said, if you ever see me in another bloody rowing boat again, shoot me. But he went on to win his 5th gold medal at the Olympics, having been diagnosed with diabetes. So it just proves that what you can put your body through and achieve.
Yeah, I mean, all of those people, maybe besides Alex Ferguson a little bit, those two are the extremes. I remember seeing Chris Hoy's legs.
Yes.
His quad muscles.
His quads.
Yeah.
Yeah, like tree trunks.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. It was almost like busting out of his shorts.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. So second question is, what is your biggest ick? So something that grates on you that might not grate on everyone.
Well, we're all encouraged to recycle, and recycling, I think it's getting ever more finicky. Plastics, separate plastics, etc. But one of my biggest gripes is our little caddy we have in our sink that we put our vegetable peelings, banana skins, etc. You get that little thin polythene bag, and it doesn't even make the 4 corners of the caddy. It's all right, I'm laughing now, but believe me, I don't always. It doesn't even, you get it, you 1, 2, 3, stretch to the 4th corner, and then you get that rip, that tear. And then if you don't replace the bag every couple of days, you pick up that bag and the vegetable peelings, etc., have rotted through the bag, and it's there sat in the middle, sat at the bottom of the caddy. You're thinking, what's the point?
That's a really, really good one. I think so many people are going to relate to that. And yeah, just the smell.
Yeah.
So third and final question is, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Giving more money back to the ordinary working class, and so not so much power to the rich. I think the social gap is getting wider and people are getting richer and richer.
That's a good one. So thank you for that. So let's get into it. Ed Buckingham, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Ed Buckingham, born and bred in Saltash, brought up in St. Stephen's area of Saltash. I've watched it grown, I've watched it expand over the years, but I'm a man that's always come back to his roots, but I'm not afraid to travel. Traveled to all continents of the world, 7 continents, arguably 8. I started work in 1989. I wasn't allowed to start before up past 6 in the morning and work beyond 10 o'clock at night. After around 10 years of happily working, doing what normal teenagers, people in their early 20s would do, clubbing and drinking at the weekends and going on the Aloof, Tenerife, Gran Canaria, etc.
Were you a bit of a lad then?
I was a bit of a lad, yes. I'd always be in Plymouth Union Street, or we'd go across the harbour lights to a point.
Oh, what?
Yes.
They call that harbour shite now.
I think we did back in the day, Daryl. Yes, I think not a lot of change. But of course, we used to go across from Plymouth side, so they thought we were Plymouthians.
Not fans, are they?
They're not fans, no, not fans. Even though history does suggest that at one time, Tor Point belonged to Plymouth, but you try and explain that to people that have been on the drink since
We're not trying to resurrect a war here.
Oh, of course, Daryl. So for the first 10 years of my life, I sort of happily sailed along until I consider life to be a life crossroads in our lives. And at around the age of 26, whilst my friends and that were settling down and perhaps getting married, etc., I wanted a little bit more adventure. And it happened over the winter of 88. I fractured my foot playing football on the AstroTurf in Plymouth. And I spent a recuperation with it not healing very well. And I spent it in front of the telly, eating Pringles and chocolate biscuits, feeling rather down for myself. Now, during that time, one afternoon, I was watching a Wish You Were Here program with the presenter Martin Roberts following a charity trip up Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, raising money for the NSPCC. And something stirred within me, and it appealed to me, something totally different to what I had done after that. So a few days later, I saw an advert in the local paper, and I signed up. So it gave me a dual purpose of having a goal of getting myself back on my feet, with a goal of climbing Kilimanjaro, which is just short of 20,000 feet. So
why didn't you just start with Lake District or then Nevis even?
No, nothing like that. Little would I know that this would be the catalyst for the next 15 years of my life.
That's incredible. I really want to know that moment that you were like, yeah, I can do that.
Well, I didn't
What was it
actually. I didn't go with any, because of the height. I didn't go with the pretensions of me doing it, because the unknown was obviously the altitude. I tell you, one of the things I was most concerned about was whether I would get my fruit and veg each day and what washing facilities would be like. That was 2 of my biggest concerns, because I've always had a good appetite and I've always liked fruit and veg. But I was concerned, and also washing facilities. I suffered in my younger years with eczema behind the knees, arms, lower back, feet especially bad. And that was one of my biggest concerns was how my washing, cleaning facilities, etc., and obviously being in the same clothes for a number of days.
Yeah, so it's almost like does that develop like an OCD-ness of cleanliness, or was it not that bad? It was just like being aware of it.
Well, no, the fruit and veg side of it was brilliant because you had, it was being a charity-based thing. There was a massive team of people, and of course the people, the helpers, etc., they brought up, there was plenty of fresh fruit and veg. The hygiene side of it, I coped very well, really, with wet wipes, etc. And obviously it was very good, and it surprised me totally. And over the years, it's quite ironic with me, actually. I've grown out of my eczema to what it was as a youngster. And each where I've been in the world, it's got better and better and better. And I used to suffer, whereas it's more acute, people suffering with things like asthma, breathing related problems, etc. Now mine has gone the other way. And even with hay fever now, it's just when people start first cutting the grass for the year is worse for me. But I just take a couple of histamines and I'm fine. So yes, I've been fortunate in that way.
I'm glad you've also maintained the hygiene thing as well.
Oh yeah,
because you could have been stinking if you come in here and you change your mind on that. I got used to not washing.
No. I shan't ask for a shower later on, Daryl. Yeah.
So there's a lot of information that you need to be able to get up that place.
Yes.
How much? Like, where did you learn?
I've always read. I always was an avid reader as a youngster. One of the things I was interested in school was English, and I did well of it, English and English lit. So yes, I got information from that. I was always been an active person. The walking side of it didn't worry me. And for Kilimanjaro, your main bulk of your equipment was carried on by people, young people, and you just carried an ordinary day sack, probably lighter than you would home here. But yeah, so that didn't worry me as such. Yeah.
So Kilimanjaro, that's 22,000 feet.
Just under 20,000 feet.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. It's just under 20,000 feet, but it's a big...
it's a big old hill, isn't it?
It's popular on the TV with the celebrities, and they even struggle with it because it's a lot of ascent and descent in a short space of time because the trips are 7 to 9 days long. So it's in all my trips that I've done, I've never been able to go out there and acclimatise beforehand on neighbouring mountains. It's always been get yourself in peak physical condition here and then go and attempt the mountain. A popular mountain in Africa is Mount Kenya, which is a bit shorter, which people acclimatise on before Kilimanjaro. So you have got to play pole, is what the local guides say on Kilimanjaro, slowly, because we have a great habit, and Brits are as bad as anybody at it, of when we're good, we walk faster than we should do. And the best approach of climbing high altitude mountains is slowly, a walk high, sleep low method, and fluid. You got to drink, sip. Fluid helps you acclimatise quicker. Not gulping, but slowly sipping away at water.
Is that stuff that you could take away into like normal life then?
Well, no,
is it
I
more
disagree
specific?
with that. If you tried drinking the amounts of water I've had to train myself for some of these mountains, you would be peeing constantly. You'd be running to the toilet. At altitude, the body absorbs the moisture. So there's not the necessity to pee. And obviously the other but as you go higher altitude, you don't feel like eating so much. Sometimes you've really got to force yourself to eat. So obviously the number twos, you don't have to do so many number twos. Yes. So, but you do drink water because the body absorbs the moisture, but you are hydrating your body. And I find that there are medicines and that you take, but I find that helps to acclimatize yourself to where you are.
And so you've done 7.
Yes, the highest mountain on each continent.
That's incredible. And you say arguably 8.
Yes, arguably 8. Cause
what is the 8th?
Either way, there's Kosciuszko in Australasia, but there's also Indonesia as well, and Carsten's Pyramid.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I've been to the 8 continents just to make sure. Yeah. So there's no arguments. Yes,
just in case.
Just in case, yes. And in actual fact, that's the most technical mountain of the lot, and it's certainly more than Kosciuszko isn't much more than a hill walk on Dartmoor, really. But yes, I've been to it all. I've spent a lot of time in the air with air miles, but my trips when I get there are ecologically, environmentally very good.
Well, yeah, they must be.
Because you don't wash very much and you have limited facilities.
Yeah, imagine taking a Lynx can's not going
to
do much, is it?
No, it would explode.
Oh, Christ,
Some of them, it would explode, yeah.
So which was the hardest?
The hardest, obviously, of the 7 summits is Mount Everest, which, when I started on this journey, I did the cheaper ones first, really.
Fair enough.
When I started Kilimanjaro, I didn't think that one day I would go to one 8,000 meter peak, let alone a second 8,000 meter peak. And the journey was, I was doing the cheaper ones first. So after Denali in 2003, I felt my physiology and my body altering. It was the first mountain in Alaska where I felt the summit. I could have pushed on further that day. But then you turn to the Himalayas. Now, the Himalayas are the home to the highest mountains in the world. All 14 of the 8,000 meter peaks are nestled over 4 countries, i.e. India, Pakistan, Bhutan, and Nepal. And the name Everest frightened me. The aura of it, the enormous of it, but I wanted to have a go at an 8,000 meter peak. So I chose, ironically, as the crow flies, it sits right next door to Everest, Choi, sitting at 8,200 meters. And in 2005, I climbed that without oxygen, which is it's a feat in itself. And I won't unashamedly say that the 2 8,000 meter peaks I've climbed are the hardest things I've ever climbed, ever done, and I've ever likely to do in my life again. They take a lot out of you. And it's where I've learned that when people are asked, do you think which are you stronger mentally or physically? I would say mentally, and we can use that in whatever we want to do. For instance, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, do you get up or do you stay in bed longer, say an hour longer, etc.? It's mentally, it's everything we do, really. Everything we do in every individual at any walk of life. So after climbing Choi, I came obviously back home, back into everyday life, working for the Royal Mail. But over the course of time, another setback in those intervening years, another setback with me fracturing my knee. I had a cruciate median knee ligament operation.
Was that done at work or?
No, not at work. Playing football on the AstroTurf. So yeah, I wouldn't. Anybody out there, don't ever play football on the AstroTurf. Go mountaineering instead. It's a lot safer for you.
Isn't it weird that is arguably safer for you?
So yeah, I gave up football, but carried on mountaineering. So yeah, so after recovering, the talk was surrounded around Everest. Of course, following people that I've been on previous trips with on the internet, social media. In the back of your mind, could I do that? Could I do that? Every day as I travelled through the Glim Valley, you'd be stuck behind the Everest windows van with the mountains staring in your rear view. So over the winter of 2010, at the age of 38, also with the added caveat of being the first Cornishman to possibly climb Everest, I wanted to go at it. I wanted to have a go at climbing Everest.
So did you know when you did the first one, Kilimanjaro, that you were going to end up doing all 7?
No.
Or 8?
No. I never, no. This was I didn't even know that I would like it. I went with but I've never been as my primary school teacher told me, that used to send me outside of the classroom regularly because I wouldn't drink my pint of milk each day because I didn't like the skin on top. She said Edward was never excelled in anything, but he always had a go.
Yeah.
So enough. She said, I was so thrilled when I learnt that he'd done this.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And I read that somewhere you had a fall.
Yes, that was on Choi.
That was on Choi.
On Choi, I had a bit of an epic adventure. It was a big group. There was about 18 clients, and sickness went around the group. It avoided me. The expedition leader, who was my expedition leader, Arnold Costa, on Everest, he quarantined these 2 people. But nevertheless, it went round some of the other members, and it also affected the guides taking you up the mountain. So I was one of the last ones to go up Choi, and I was paired with this guy that was faster than me. And I didn't like it very much because I thought they'll leave me behind, even though they shouldn't do. And sure enough, that happened. We set off and I was left behind because I thought if I walked too quick, then I would burn myself out, exhaustion far too quick. So I tagged in behind another group, but carried on walking up the mountain towards the summit. They passed me when I was still going up, and they were on the way back down. So yes, I summited, etc., and I came back down the same route. Just before, a little way before getting back to camp, I looked down the mountain, and instead of stopping, I walked and I slipped, and I went glissading down the mountain. And you taught about ice axe arrest, hoping that you would never have to use it. And glissading down the mountain, I used ice axe arrest. I lost the crampon. Unbeknown to me at the time, I was in a heavily crevassed area. So I had to get myself out of it because the team members, etc., weren't able to come out to me. So I had to, with one crampon missing, I had to get out. I had to walk back up, actually, to the camp I was coming down to. And I did it. And one of the guides was there with another Brit who was preparing to go up the mountain. And I think they was amazed because they thought I was a goner. They thought I was dead. And I think I made the comment of something like, phew, that was harder than it should have been. And so then there's more to this story. I got back into my tent and I took off not these boots here. I took off my boots, but I never took off the inner sock. And I just put them into my sleeping bag because the other guy was trying to hydrate himself, get some food in, and he was being sick at the same time. So I was helping preparing him to go up the mountain for his summit attempt. So anyway, my feet, damp with the socks, went into my sleeping bag. The next day, I packed up to walk up further down the mountain, and I felt my toes really sore against the boots. And I thought, this don't feel right somehow. So of course, once I got back down to base camp, took off my boots, I had the early stages of frostbite. This is a few days later.
So Ed has shown me a photo from his book, and it is gopping. I didn't like feet before. I'm definitely never liking feet again.
That is back in Saltash, because I got off the train at Plymouth in October. I looked like Bugs Bunny because I had sandals on with these big bandaged feet, and I had to have these feet redressed each day down the Portview surgery.
Do you know what I feel sorry for? The person who took that photo.
Well, that was one of my parents. But thankfully, all I just lost was toenails and a bit of skin.
No way.
Because if those toes had been like overdone sausages on the barbecue, charcoal black, then I probably would have lost them. But I was extremely lucky. I never burst the frostbite to allow infection. And once I got to a Kathmandu practice, the strong antibiotics they gave me worked wonders. But I was the talk of the practice, and each day I would go down to the surgery to redressed, and all the other doctors and nurses would come in as well because they've never seen frostbite before. So yes, I lost some sensitivity in my feet for that following winter, and I remember wearing 2 pairs of socks each day. But I went on to climb Everest and go to Antarctica, so I consider I haven't lost too much.
Yeah, that is.
But yes, a schoolboy error of not taking your damp socks off and putting on fresh ones. That would have not caused that, but it was a schoolboy error on my part.
But I get something you just overlook every now and again. The guys that help you up, do they do that daily?
I still reiterate to this day, and obviously I follow what goes on the mountains still and what goes on Everest. You wouldn't climb the mountains without these people. They are phenomenal people. In my 9 weeks on Everest, I probably only walked about 9 to 12 days. The rest of the time was spent recuperating at either way base camp or at advanced base camp, whilst these people are working tirelessly on your behalf. So there were 7 clients. We each had 5 bottles of oxygen, and I used every bit of that oxygen. I paid for it, or my family paid for it. I wouldn't have climbed the mountain without it, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But these people, but I only actually climbed with 1 bottle of oxygen from 7,000 meters on me. 1 was placed at Camp 2, and then obviously 3 was placed at Camp 3, which is 8,300 meters. So 35 bottles of oxygen, all shared between these 4 guides. Plus they had 2 bottles themselves, which I can assure you was for insurance purposes. They did not need oxygen. And obviously the tent equipment and what little food you would eat. I put on half a stone prior to going to Everest. I only lost half a stone. Totally different to my Choi experience. But yes, you wouldn't climb the mountains without them. And that's why so many of them are signed up by the Western companies as regular staff.
It's just like, you think I work 8:30 till 5 every day. These guys.
Well, to be a Sherpa in Nepal or China, to go on an Everest trip, they'd earn up to 6 months' wages. It's that valuable to them as well. So back in
they are compensated a little bit.
Back in 2011, they were also every extra oxygen bottle you could bring down the mountain. They were $50 US. They would get paid extra for it. Obviously, things have altered now, which to me and you wouldn't be worth a bother, but to them, yeah, to them it's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and it's a lot of time. It's a lot of risk.
Yeah, but it is like a rubbish dump.
Is it?
But then that's not the only mountain. I saw Kilimanjaro like it. There is a problem in society, and mountains is no different.
So you get up to the top.
Yeah.
Mount Everest.
Yeah.
What happens then?
Well, on the 21st of May at approximately 7:30 in the morning, after 9 hours of climbing 550 meters, I stood on top of the world. I saw plenty of people celebrating, unclipping from the rope, pulling the mobile phone out and ringing. Yes, it was minus 35 degrees. Thankfully, the wind chill was only 10 to 15 miles an hour. My mobile phone was down at base camp in amongst my personal gear. The job is only half done. No mountain is recorded until you safely get back down the mountain. And most of the accidents happen on the way back down the mountain. And you think of the reasons why: lack of sleep, dehydrated, lack of food, severe lack of oxygen, and now you're contending with the thought that you're on the highest mountain in the world. So I didn't celebrate, and that was one of the stipulations I made myself instill in me. 20 minutes may sound a long time, but it takes a lot longer for the body to react to the messages you're sending to it. And that's how I dealt with high altitude, is by always thinking one step ahead. And this is where I explain that the strongest part of your body is your brain, your mental thing. And that's how I dealt with it. Because above 7,900 meters, you're into what's called the death zone. And the death zone is the simple fact that even with the use of supplementary oxygen, your body is slowly dying. If you can imagine being in a flying aeroplane going across at approximately 33 to 35,000 feet, what would happen if they turned the oxygen off running through that cabin? You wouldn't last very long at all. And here's a man with one bottle of oxygen on his back, standing on top of a mountain 29,000 feet. Bearing in mind, it's about 3,300 feet to 1,000 meters. There's not a lot of height difference. So I had no thought at all that I climbed the highest mountain in the world. And it wasn't till a day and a half later, having got back down to base camp, advanced base camp, and I peered into our kitchen tent. The expedition leader, Arnold Coster, got up and said, "Well done, Ed, the first Cornishman to climb Everest." And that's when it first struck me of what I had achieved the day before. So intent was I on getting down safely and becoming a statistic for the right reason.
Yeah, and what does it mean to be Cornish?
Oh, well, the only littering I did on the mountain was leave my Cornish flag up there, up the top.
Yeah.
Which I did.
That's great.
But of which there's many other flags. So that's acceptable.
I bet there weren't many Devon flags up there, were there?
Oh, no. They can't even get the scones right. Devon people wouldn't go up there, would they? You can't even put the scones up right.
How long were you up on the top bit for then?
20 minutes.
Oh, it was 20 minutes.
It took 9 hours to get from Camp 3 to the summit. and I was up there 20 minutes because the weather window was only very short. And I mentioned about the winds, 10 to 15 mile an hour. It took a further 6 hours to get back where you started. So it was 15 hours. They would have liked to me to have got further down the mountain, but I physically was off my feet.
You just couldn't.
This was thankfully going. I was physically off. I packed up, ready to go, but they hauled me back and they said, look, you go down tomorrow. What an experience.
And did you like spin out, like how wide is the summit?
You got to bear in mind the summit. You got the people coming up from the south and the pole side, and there's you coming up on the north side, the Tibetan side. It's not that big a summit, but it's a free-for-all. You don't wait. You have to just pick your spot and get your photos, etc. Because that was one of the things. I had my camera tucked into my big coat, and I pulled it out, and the red light was flashing. So there's me on top of a mountain with my gloves and mitts on, trying to change the battery. Fiddly at the best of times.
And how were you like literally feeling at that point though?
Concentrating. I was concentrating that hard.
Yeah. Because that's a point as well. These trips sound ruddy expensive.
Oh, they are.
Like to get all the gear.
Yeah, all this. I tell you, when I bought this Daryl, this coat, was before the Euro in Chamonix. This coat was bought in 2000 because I had it for Aconcagua. So it was bought before the Euro, and it's done several trips. It hangs up in my airing cupboard. You could still use it now because it's got that puffy feel of it. It's never been used in this country. It's never been used in Europe. It's 6,500 meters up. So it's goose down. But yeah.
How many tog is it?
Oh, tog.
Does it have like a... Because it's a bit like a sleeping bag, isn't it?
It's goose down. Well, I didn't bring my sleeping bag, Daryl. I didn't think you was inviting me for the evening.
I would have kicked you outside.
Oh, do you want me to do some babysitting, do you?
It's not very flattering, is it?
So
how much have you spent? Do you do like an estimate
all your trips? I think the that adventure on like back of my card that's done out like my book, which is done out like a postcard with all the stamps, 80 to 90,000 pounds.
That is mad, isn't it?
But how much would it cost you now?
Well,
how much would it cost you now? 5 bottles of oxygen cost me about £2,500. Then, of course, the insurance premiums you've got to have. And then I've also got to remember the way my job is. The longest trip, I had 13 weeks out for Everest, which was 2 years allocation of leave for me from the Royal Mail with 1 week unpaid. So to do that now, I probably would, they wouldn't be so keen now if I had to do a trip in the seas, like allowing me 2 years allocation of my leave in one trip. So I'd probably have to take more unpaid leave now.
So does that mean when you got back, you didn't have any holiday?
I didn't. When I come back from Everest, I didn't have no leave for the rest until the following year.
No way.
But no, that was the longest trip, 13. Choi was only 5 weeks. But even so, that's 5 weeks out of 6.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Use him for one trip.
It's a long year. And it might not.
Yeah.
It's like, how holiday works.
The thing is, well, my year goes from April to March. But the thing is, yeah, it is a long time, but I bounced from one challenge to the next. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. It was an adrenaline rush for me, looking back on this lot. But I achieved all these mountains at the first time of asking.
So you did all of these mountains?
Yeah.
What made you stop?
So after completing the 7 summits, after I climbed Everest, I wanted to complete the 7, of which I had 2 continents to conquer, Australasia, and I was thinking about writing a book, an autobiography. Plenty of people write about Everest, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to write about the 7 summits, each continent, turn it into an autobiography. And I wanted to finish on a mountain that's quite remote. So it had to be Antarctica, which was more expensive than Everest to get to and more remote. Logistically, it was a nightmare because you fly down to Punta Arenas in South America, and then you have to fly across on a specially designed plane onto the continent of Antarctica, which is ice. So back in 2014, that 3-week trip alone to Antarctica cost me £27,000.
That's a lot of saving.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. If I wanted to go to the South Pole, which is a further 6 hours away, it would have cost me a further $25,000 to see something that has been ruined, similar to what Peter de Savary did to Land's End in Cornwall. And basically the Americans have ruined it. You may be not surprised to hear. So yeah, so that cost me £27,000 to go to Antarctica, but it was 7 summits for something that wasn't particularly hard after what I had done. But oh wow, what a trip. Because obviously I was climbing the highest point on Antarctica and you had it to yourself, really.
And you just look around and...
Well, it's 24 hours daylight. So here's me flying across in this jet, and this is like 12 o'clock. This is like 12 o'clock at night.
No way.
And then you land on the ice, and yes, you've got sunglasses on with some sunscreen, and the sun's a bit lower, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, like
no birds or animals. So it's kind of like eerie.
Yeah.
It was really weird, and you had to go to sleep with patches on to try and block out some of the light.
Yeah, because like the fact that you had to put sunscreen on
at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's just, yeah, it's just odd, isn't it?
Well, yes, because it's bouncing off as well as coming down. You've got to, and it may sound weird, Daryl, but you had these on your glasses, a little beak, a neoprene beak that you've made to cover your nose, because it's not unheard of that you get sunburn inside your nostrils and inside your top lip. So not very comfortable at all. Yeah, because of bouncing off the...
No way.
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it?
It's not all about fashion, Daryl.
It's because I'm the height of fashion.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. It's not all about fashion. You've got to go, I don't think I can just got a picture of that beak. Yeah, neoprene beak.
No, it makes
on
sense.
Your glass. Yeah.
Of those 8, do you have a favourite?
Yes, Denali was my favourite trip because you flew in from Talkeetna, landed on the glacier in this little biplane, all your luggage, all your food for 3 weeks, because there was no Sherpas in North America. So there was 8 of us, 3 guides. So I carried a 100-litre rucksack plus pulled a sledge. And then you was left, and then you watched this biplane go off, and then you was left. So you had, when there was whiteouts like that, where you couldn't move, and you had to dig yourself out of your tents periodically, else you'd suffocate. You learnt to ration your food as well.
Is that another picture of your feet?
Yeah, I'm showing you. You're getting to like them.
I feel like I know them.
Yeah. So, but that was a real adventure. And it was quite funny, actually, because on the return 3 weeks later, it was all the end of the expedition, and we had stayed 2 days longer because of weather. I was up at the top camp, and we had to sit out 2 days in a storm. And the guide came around and he said, "Your flight is tomorrow. Do you want to stay or do you want to go back?" I said, "No, I'll stay. I'll stay. Thank you very much." But after climbing it and going down onto the glacier to wait for the plane come in, it landed on the runway, and it upended itself.
No way.
So there's us all sat on our rucksacks, etc., kind of like just wanting a shower and a beer, really. And this plane come in and upended. It's like something out of a comedy, really. So thankfully, we didn't get on that plane. We all ran out and uprighted it, and then it flew off again, and you waited for another one to come in. But yeah, it was quite comical to watch, really.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that.
I haven't done that at Heathrow, Daryl.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Imagine the
But yeah, no.
paperwork.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would be paperwork, wouldn't it? It would be, everything's paperwork these days.
So after all that, you finally decided to do the book.
Yeah, so no, I wrote the book and I kind of left it with 2 chapters left till obviously completed. Went to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So this book came out in 2016, 7 summits.
What was that like? What's like writing a book?
I love it because,
yeah.
as I said, I was always interested in English at school, and I read a lot myself. So yes, I wrote the book myself, but I've written journals on my trips to keep it, and obviously the nearest expeditions is like fresh in my mind. And I also do talks and presentations, and Everest is one of my presentations. So much as the chapter, or some of the chapter, is very much as I would come across if I was speaking to a group. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. So I wrote it myself, no ghostwriter. And then I went to meet somebody in Sheffield, who dealt specifically in mountaineers, etc., and climbers. And I sent it the old-fashioned way, actually, a manuscript in the post.
Is that one of those long bits?
Well, it's just paper. It's basically typed paper. So I didn't send him on a
USB stick.
stick. No, I sent it by post because we still had a postal service then, and you'd know he would get it within a week. So he looked at the first 3 chapters and he said, we can do something with this. So yes, he helped me edit it, and then it was printed in Padstow.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, TJ Books, of which I understand now have just gone into receivership.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yes. Well, it is if they can't find a buyer. But yeah, so this came out in 2016. So the idea of it is for anybody really, but the idea, I come from a family of hill walkers, coastal walkers and farmers, not mountaineers. So what I've achieved in this book is by videos, experience, and hard work as well.
Yeah. And you said you do speeches now.
Yes, I do talks.
Where did that sort of come in? Did you just...
Well, no, suddenly after Everest, I started to do Everest presentations. And then once I climb, Everest is my prime presentation. If a group asks me back a second time, then I'll do my Antarctica presentation. But I tailor make it to whatever the group wants. I have my images on a USB stick. As you can see, I've got equipment that I take along as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I also speak in schools as well, particularly primary schools when the pupils are on their cold projects or Antarctica projects, which the pupils love because they like to meet somebody live. And again, they get to see the equipment. And children, as you know, Daryl, are not afraid to ask anything. And it's surprising what you can talk to them about because nothing phases them, which the idea came about for my second book was after going into primary schools. So Toby Goes Extreme in Antarctica is about a fictional story of a young Cornish lad who has the opportunity of going to Antarctica, meeting up with some others and going on some adventures. So this book is both environmental and educational, with a lot of photos. 90% of the photos are ones that I've taken on my experience in Antarctica, and others are illustrated through purpose of the book. So yes, that idea came about through going into primary schools.
Through speaking to them so you can...
Yeah. And I thought it would be kind of good to do a story with the pictures, a lot more pictures alongside the text, because that's how younger people relate and learn quicker.
And is there any scope for any more books?
Yes, because I've 7 summits, I've just about sold out. I'm putting together a 3rd book titled something around the title of Manipulating Nature to Meet Our Demands. And it's based on my 7 Summits book, but there is some updating of information surrounding the mountains, and it's tackling mental health also. And it's also because mental health is something that I've seen a dramatic change in my working lifetime over the course of the years. When I started work, it was mainly bad backs, knees, sprains, etc. But mental health is something different altogether and a lot harder to pinpoint. And of course, everybody is different. So my new book, there's going to be some picture changes, and also, whereas the back of the 7 Summits is designed in the shape of a letter with the stamps, etc., my business is now changing into more of a parcel industry.
What do you enjoy most now then?
Seeing other people achieve what they want to do. It may not be mountaineering or outdoor. It may be something totally different. Like my eldest niece, she did the Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award, and we went up to Snowdon one day as part of it. I was never interested in Duke of Edinburgh at school or the 10 tours, both of which I think are wonderful opportunities and I support them wholly, but I never did it at school. But I think they're wonderful things.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that, like,
anything is possible.
School isn't always the be-all and end-all, is it? Because
No.
As much as I feel people need an education, and I'm not suggesting any different, but you sort of found yourself after school.
Well, that's right. I walked away with 8 GCSEs. I probably could have done better, but I had the job in the Royal Mail whilst I was taking my exams. I had a short summer. I had about 2 weeks, and then I started work. But I had made up my mind about the 3rd year of secondary school that I just wanted to work. I'd had enough of education, to be honest with you. But it had to be an outdoor career. And even now, if I was looking at something now, I don't like being cooped up indoors too long. The one subject that I think would have benefited me, Daryl, big time, is social media studies. But then again, some of these mountains, the early years, I never had a mobile phone.
No.
But I look at social media, I found hard at times. Yes, I've got to grips with it, but I think it would have helped me with this lot because, for instance, when I came back from Everest, Daryl, I thought, right, this would be good for local news.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went into the local news, BBC, and I said about what I'd done. And they said, have you got any moving footage, etc., of you filming? I paid £20,000 of that out of my own pocket for a gamble. And they weren't interested. Yeah, I was the first Cornishman to climb Everest.
So if you had one message to give to people who are listening, just to round off nicely, what would you say?
Well, I've always gone for the philosophy, as you get older, don't ever regret not doing something when you had the opportunity. And I think if I hadn't made the decision in 2010 that I wanted to have a go at Everest, I could have lived to regret it beyond the age of 38. To be the first Cornishman to climb it is just the icing on the cake, so to speak. There's plenty of people that will sit back and say no, and there's plenty of people that may be not very supportive, but they're generally people that are too afraid to have a go themselves. So if ever you feel that you got a good shot at something, then go for it.
Thank you so much, Ed. I really, really appreciate it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed just sitting back and listening. It was inspirational. But for now, cheers.